Welcome to the Party Lines, where we unpack some of the biggest and oftentimes most polarizing issues impacting Canada today. Up first, as the AI race accelerates, some are arguing Canada should build the infrastructure at home instead of paying to use someone else's. Take a look.
The three questions that I always pose to myself. Either we build the infrastructure here or we rent it somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Either we build the innovation here with our SMEs and our entrepreneurs, if we create the innovation here, or we buy it from someone else. And either we make the rules here or we follow someone else's. Those are the choices we've got as a country. Those are the choices that our strategy is built on.
Yeah.
So we got to build the infrastructure. We got to invest in our entrepreneurs and our innovators and our businesses. We got to make the rules here according to our values. And if we can answer those questions and that's where the trust, opportunity, sovereign control happens, then we got a shot here of shaping this thing that's happening so quickly in the interests of our citizens, our workers, our people.
So, bit of a conflict of interest on this one for myself as I play in the AI infrastructure space. So from my perspective, I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Right.
But I play in the space and I also agree with them. So it's not that I'm torn from that standpoint of, we do great as inventing things in Canada.
Mhm.
We have the godfather of AI, Jeffrey Hinton here. We do great things and then we export all our brain, like our talent and everyone, and then we buy it off the US. We have all these moratoriums and data centers and all this stuff going on. What it doesn't match our national strategy, which Evan Solomon is saying. Like, we have some options here, folks. There isn't anything outside of this. So we either get on board and do it here, or we don't. And it's pretty straightforward.
And I think that's why it's so controversial. Anybody that talks about a data center right now, all these towns, everybody is saying, no, not in my backyard. There's NIMBYism, right? And so I think that's really going to be the education piece of what does it actually entail? How much of our resources? Is there federal lands that we can put these data centers on so that way it's not impacting certain communities? Like, those are all questions that we have to figure out because AI is not going anywhere.
No.
And like you said, it would have been great, if other ideas like Elon Musk, I think, said he was going to put it on the moon and that we were able to pull from those resources. But as talks have progressed, we see now more than ever, we need that data sovereignty.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, and it might sound crude, but it's the uneducated who are complaining about it. So you've got folks like Hamilton, Ontario, who, could become a major player in this. They've got underutilized lands that have power on it that you're not going to build anything. They're old steel lands. Well, what are you going to put on their houses? Never. And you've got it just sitting there, but no, we're going to pause and do this. It's going to happen somewhere else. The data centers of yesterday aren't the data centers of today. And I'm dangerous because I know a little bit about power consumption and things like that. Things get better. Technology changes. So the impact when you hear, and what we've done previously is convert existing data centers and try to use them for AI. These are purpose-built units. So you're able to build them super efficient for the purpose that you're going to be using them for. So these arguments are being had by the complainers and the people that haven't actually looked into it. And the government has actually studied and said, yeah, we can do this. By the time these things are built, it's not going to be the data center that people are complaining about that sucks all this water. They're not. They're self-contained chillers. I can go on forever about this. So we need, every one of us watching, every one of us that are in the station, the rest of it, I definitely guarantee that you are all on ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or something for your work, for anything today. That comes from somewhere, right? So we want to use it. We just don't want to have it here. And it's the legacy references that are made that drive me nuts. And sorry, I know that's a bit of a speech, but it drives me nuts when you're trying to have, because, the data center word is dirty now and it's not the truth.
And I don't think that's going to go away either, just because so many people are worried about losing their jobs to AI. And it's something that seems out of control when we hear of the leaks where all of a sudden it's outsmarting the creators and it's breaking out and going rogue. And so people are almost like, why do we need it?
Yeah.
At this point in time, like,
I get it.
Can't we just
do
a
agentic
full
software
stop?
development with,
right?
And you've got agents that are building the software and they hallucinate and the updates don't come and they'll do whatever. And sometimes they do what they want if you don't have the proper guardrails. And we're all learning at the same time. These rules haven't been established before. We're looking at it going, oh, shoot, it did that. Oh my, it released this. Oh my God. There was 3 instances in the last few weeks about things that were supposed to be contained in Anthropic and they got out. They weren't even tied to the system and they fought their way out. So there's a lot of problems on that side. And then we can cover that on a different topic. The data center side specifically, Solomon's right. If we don't invest in it, we're going to lose out. We're going to pay someone else for it.
When we return, the immigration debate continues, but are Canadians getting the full story?
I say no on the party line, so let's go.
Welcome back. How much of the immigration debate is being driven by facts and how much is being driven by misinformation? This clip takes a closer look.
This is Mario. He spends a lot of time promoting conservatives, and in particular, Pierre Poilievre, which means that he also spends a lot of time attacking the federal government. And in this video, he pushes one of the most common misconceptions about immigration in Canada.
Newcomers with different statuses in Canada apply for income support benefits.
Hold on, because there's a really important detail that Mario left out. He's making it sound like the average immigrant coming to Canada is getting all kinds of special benefits. And that's not actually what's happening.
Depending on the family size, they usually receive $2,200.
The programs he's describing are primarily associated with refugee resettlement and humanitarian programs, not immigration in general. And according to the federal government's own immigration plan, government-assisted refugees account for about 15,000 out of 395,000 planned permanent resident admissions in 2025. That's less than 4%. Less than 4%. Think about what that means. Mario tells you this story and people immediately picture the immigrant working in Tim Hortons. They picture the engineer who moved here from India, the nurse from the Philippines, the international student struggling to pay tuition and rent.
This is also known as a gimmigrant. It's a person who has come to a different country in order to live there permanently and live there for free.
This is where the sleight of hand happens. He takes a program designed for some of the most vulnerable refugees in the world and then encourages viewers to apply it to all immigrants in general. Those are not the same thing. Historically, these humanitarian programs have been used for people fleeing some of the most extraordinary circumstances in the world. Syrian refugees fleeing civil war, Afghans fleeing the Taliban, Ukrainians fleeing the Russian invasion, or more recently, the conflict in Gaza. These aren't people filling out an economic immigration application just because they want a better job. These are humanitarian cases. And again, we're talking about roughly 15,000 refugees per year, less than 4% of all immigrants that came to Canada in 2025. So let's call this what it is. This isn't about exposing a secret program. It's about taking a tiny humanitarian category that represents less than 4% of planned permanent resident admissions and creating the impression that it applies to immigrants generally.
Good. Bad. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I do. And that's exactly the problem. The guy you see working at Tim Hortons, the person driving the Uber, the engineer, the nurse, the tradesperson, or the international student trying to build a better life, they're most likely not receiving refugee resettlement benefits. Mario wants you to picture them when he tells the story, but the people he's actually describing are in a completely different category. And that's the distinction that changes everything. That's the part he doesn't want you thinking about.
So one of my favorite lines and one of the favorite things, I must say it 15 times a day, is context. So we need context for it. First of all, Mario and him go back and forth. Second of all, there's a video that came out from Mario disputing that. And if you actually watch the whole video, this gentleman has done some brilliant editing. Second of all, Mario is an immigrant. He'll tell you that right away. So there's a bit of a backstory here. And his main message is our immigration system is being abused. I don't think there's people that say it won't. I don't think, and he talks about the policies. He talks about being a conservative. He is conservative. He's not a conservative. His principles are. So I have a lot of problems with this clip from the standpoint of what's been cut together. But at the end of the day, he's picking on a program. He's bringing up a point. You can debate this stuff all day long. If you go back and look at holistically, even the IRCC's numbers said, 20% of people are happy with immigration. So there's a problem, and he strategically picked out what he needed to out of that comment. But I don't understand what he's trying to do except pick a fight and go back and forth and argue with somebody.
I think right now we're seeing such vitriol when it comes to immigration. And so in some context, I know why Mark probably did this post, just because we are seeing so many people be targeted when it comes to, job losses and whether or not certain people can get employment right now. We see the stats about whether or not, people here in Canada are applying to certain jobs that normally immigrants would come and fill certain work positions, right? That we see. And so really in the context of what he's trying to explain is like not all immigrants are set up
because they
well.
can't get a house. the Liberals under Trudeau opened the floodgates. I love it. Even when Anthony sits here, he's like, it's the worst thing in the world. We screwed up immigration. People are mad because of what we did to ourselves. We caused this. You did it to yourself. And this is a microcosm. And, we're built on immigration. And I even made a comment to you back in one point saying, well, let's just pause it for a while. And I was kind of playing around saying, but the system is broken. Something needs to be done. And, the infighting and the rest of it is not going to help anybody. But neither is this.
When we return, we'll look at the changing attitudes that Canadians may be having when it comes to military defense spending.
Say yes, I say no on the party line, so let's go.
Welcome back. With global threats on the rise, Canadians appear to be rethinking how much the country should invest in defense. Take a look.
I think that we need to be a little more diverse and a little broader in our thinking, and we need to start thinking about Canada differently going into the next 50 years than we have for the last 150 years.
It does feel as though the sentiment in Canada is changing and has changed over the past few months. I think in particular around the comments about us being the 51st state. We're seeing Canadians shift their perspective. Do you think this applies to how Canadians are thinking and supporting defense spending?
I think it is, absolutely. For the first time in the election last year, both parties had very strong defense platforms. They both laid out that they would get to 2% and now 3.5%. They both agreed that we have to invest in defense due to the over-reliance on the United States. And so I think that is probably ingrained in Canadian political thinking and Canadian investment going forward. I think it would be very difficult for any one party to reverse that at this point.
I mean, we have to increase defense because we didn't, or spending because we didn't do what we said we were going to do. That's part of the problem, right? When she talks about the two, if people are wondering what the 2 to 3.5% was, we agreed to things, right? And we didn't follow through on them.
That was a big problem with the past Liberal government, right? And you would have thought after having Trump in place in 2016 that they really would have taken it more seriously.
Absolutely.
Instead of this scramble that we're seeing right now, that we're trying to, upskill, reskill certain civilians in order to go into like the Navy or the Canadian Armed Forces. And that's going to take a lot of time for us to even retool certain industries, even if we're looking at automotive and we want to turn into defense instead, whether we're making ammunition or we're doing tanks. All that needs manpower and people and to fill those positions. So I think it's great that there's money being put in. I think it's great that there's respect going back to the military personnel and that we're seeing that. But again, we always looked at it as peacemakers. Yeah. So it didn't make sense, to most people for us to be putting money into the military. But you had all these armed forces personnel saying, hey, everything is breaking down. Yeah. Like we have, and even for the places that they would be stationed and having like adequate housing. And so that went on the wayside. And so in order to like make it robust, it's about time.
Yeah. And part of the spending is we made big announcements. It was staffing. We caught up on what money owed. So we've talked about increasing spending. We haven't done anything different. That's part of the problem, right? We've increased spending. Great. And I kind of look at it, when Doug Ford was criticized with, not investing for the fires in Northern Ontario. Well, I had a great discussion with someone when I talked about, well, what does investing mean? Because you can say, well, we spent $100 million more. Well, you what, 4 airplanes to do things? Like, what did you do with the money? Right. So it's easy to spend the money. What are you spending it on? And, we obviously, when we've talked about sovereignty a few times to show, hey, we're a sovereign country. We need to protect that. Right. We have a very vast unmanned border at the north of our, why we haven't done this sooner, regardless of what your party stripe is shocking. And I mean, a lot of it is we kumbaya a lot, but, you've got Russia, we've got challenges on our north side that,
need the icebreakers, need to protect the Arctic, right. And that's the NATO alliance. And I think that's why it's so important for us to have like the European Union, all these other
well, they should all have been calling us out, not just Trump. And Trump was calling us out, good for him, because no one else was doing it. And it's like, well, it's like we all chip in on a bill here. Like we all agreed to do it. You got to do it, whether it's greenhouse gas, whatever you're agreeing to, you got to stand by your word. And as Canadians, we have not. My interest, and I think a lot of Canadians' interest is yes, we need increased spending, but what are we using it for? What is the increase in? If we still invest all this money and it's not to protect our borders, it's to get submarines or to like, and we had a discussion previously
F-45s,
about the
planes,
yeah,
and where are they coming from?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and who's the steel and the rest. So like there has to be economic impact for us as well in our defense spending. So I want to see that playing as well from the standpoint it's like the technology is great. That's great. We bring this technology in, but there's a lot of defense jobs that you know people can pivot to or manufacturing, and
Absolutely.
it takes a long time.
Mhm.
This isn't like today I'm supplying this and tomorrow I'm going to supply this. So, and even the tech world, especially now, there's a lot of opportunity in our tech world
Yep,
to bring
drones,
Canadian.
all
Exactly.
this,
I mean,
yeah.
you look at it. So there's things we can do here, some long term, some short term. Once again, kind of like the when they make announcements about power or whatever else, I want to see the implementation on budget.
Right. And who's leading the charge? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. When we return, we'll look at how a fight over bike lanes is turning into a charter of rights debate.
You say yes, I say no on the party line, so let's go.
A fight over bike lanes is turning into a charter rights debate. Ben Mulroney explains why.
Hey, victory, everyone. Doug Ford has won his appeal to get the bike lanes taken off of Bloor and off of Yonge Street. You'll remember he made that a part of his re-election campaign. He won a huge crushing mandate. And of course, a court challenge came in and a judge, and I thought what a boneheaded decision, said that cyclists had a charter right to bike lanes. Well, they appealed it to the appeals court, and 3 judges essentially told this guy he was full of it. Nobody has a charter right to bike lanes, and the legislators get to decide this sort of thing. So my only question is, when do we start ripping them up? Because yesterday is too late for me. This is and of course, the cyclists come out and repeat their oft-repeated refrain: bike lanes don't cause congestion. They're playing a semantic shell game. I'm sure you can argue with a straight face that a bike lane itself does not cause congestion. But you have to think I'm the dumbest son of a gun on the planet not to appreciate spatial reasoning 101. That the bike lane exists because it has taken up a lane of traffic. I'm not stupid. Don't talk to me like I'm stupid. Bike lanes cause congestion. That's it. I know you think you're being fancy with your magical whimsy of don't look over here, look over here. The bike lane's not causing it. It's over here. Bike lanes cause congestion. So now do Doug Ford, please. Please, you got wind in your sails. Rip them up. I've told you, I will be part of a community of celebrating citizens. We will lend you our time. We will give of our time and our sweat and our toil to help you. I will be part. Just deputize me, man. I'll start repainting. I'll move stuff. I'll throw stuff in a dumpster for you. I guarantee you this. We are legion, Doug Ford. Legion. Get rid of them now.
So I feel on this show I play the role of Ben Mulroney, and Ashley does guest on his show. So I'm going to defer to you. And she didn't pull this clip. In fairness, I did, because I do tend to agree with a lot of what he says. So how would you push back on Ben if you were on the show right now?
With the bike lanes, if you're in a major city, and you're looking at different ways of getting around and different modalities, bikes is a huge part of like living within a big city, and that's in Toronto. And when you look at the accidents that can take place, I think that's why so many people are upset. If you're moving the bike lanes, you're going to see a lot more cyclists that, get injured or fatalities. And by having the bike lanes that they had in place, I know you're smiling right now, but it's actually, that's like a fact.
It's a chartered right.
Okay, maybe taking it so far to
That's
say
a
a charter,
massive
and I
leap.
feel like for safety, if we're talking about safety, then yeah, it's a huge problem.
Sure, for safety, everyone walking down Yonge Street should wear a helmet.
Oh.
Because they could walk out in front of traffic, or someone could come on the curb. There's a lot of things we can do for safety. Yes, do cyclists need to be safe? Absolutely. Are there cyclists in Toronto? Absolutely. Did we throw bike lanes out like Oprah was giving away cars? Absolutely. So, I mean, even the, painting the road red, and we're going to have these, they didn't work. This stuff doesn't work. So it's patchwork. We're taking existing infrastructure and saying we're going to slap a lane in here. That's not city building. That's just, you know, and where is the actual background to say this needs it, this needs it, this needs it? The one thing I will push back on is, you know,
Urban planners.
this
That's
should
what they're
be
there for. They
right,
check and they see what
right.
makes
And this
most
is
sense.
interesting because it is a city of Toronto thing,
Right.
right? And the premier, people forget, just because they're in Toronto, it's it's the capital of the province.
Yeah.
He's making decisions on behalf of the city, is the way I kind of view it.
Yeah,
So
you're spending so much money to put these things in place,
Yeah.
and then you're taking them
You're
away,
taking them
whether
all
or
out.
not it's bike lanes or license
Right.
plates or speed cameras.
yeah, well, the license plate thing was a 3M issue. So
Just
let's
make it
go
make
back.
sense.
Can you imagine? Remember
All
when
the
we
money-
argued about license plates before? That's what was our biggest problem right before COVID.
Right.
Fascinating, but
Yeah.
but you know, I think it's weird he's meddling in a city issue, but he is experiencing that city every day, all day. The fact that a judge decided that they're going to weigh in, I think that's the big issue here. Is a
Mhm.
judge decided they're going to weigh in on something constitutional and make it. That is not their job. The appeal, the three judges, not your job.
Right.
To
To set a precedent, whether or not.
keep it in your lane, for lack of a better term.
That's funny.
But
yeah.
at the end of the day, bike lanes are gone. A lot of commuters are happy.
Thanks for joining us again on the Party Lines. We'll see you again next week.